Welcome to the Villa Pride Down Under podcast, an Aston Villa supporters podcast brought to you from Australia. Tonight I got myself, Spud and Rhino. Unfortunately, Tess couldn't make it, but as we know, with three different time zones, as we mentioned here many times in the podcast, it's not going to always be possible for the three of us to be on together. But so we'll make the times when the three of us are together that bit better. So we'll always make sure there's two to keep the show on the road. So you'll have to put up with the rough Brugges and myself and Rhino tonight. How are you, buddy?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. A little bit flat after this morning, early start, but that's all right. We move on to the next one.
That's it. It was flat is probably the word I would use to. It's a good way to sum up the whole game. We like to start with the lineups right now. Any surprises for you?
For me, I think Mings and Kamara again as many minutes as what they have done in the past couple of games is a surprise for me. I know you've called it on other podcasts that you predicted that Mings would start the cup game against Palace. I wasn't so sure. I thought it would take a bit of time to integrate both back in. I thought they'd be introduced slowly sort of thing. But they've been thrown back in and sink or swim sort of thing for those two. Other changes were expected after the Spurs game for me. I think, we do need to rotate, and I'm mindful that some of the players are obviously getting a lot of minutes, especially the likes of Morgan, Rogers and Tielemans, who didn't get, obviously rotated for this game, but they're starting to rack up some big minutes and big games. But yeah, surprises for me is probably Mings and Kamara getting as many minutes as what they have.
Yeah. I think that's probably a reflection of how we've been conceding goals. To be honest, I think he's probably felt that Torres needed a bit of a rest. I expected him to bring Mings in quickly and start giving him minutes. I didn't expect him to start starting games straight away. I did against Palace, but I didn't think he'd start this morning. But once the lineup came out, it kind of made sense to me because I thought right away from home we're leaking some very silly goals. Pau Torres has taken a bit of a hammering. Maybe he's just trying to take him out of the firing line. There's also probably a bit of an aspect too, is kind of giving Mings a bit of confidence, saying, you are here, you're part of the Champions League squad. It's been a long journey for you, Kamara doesn't surprise me at all. Like, you know what I think of Kamara. I still think he's the most tactically adaptable footballer we have in this whole squad, and I think Emery is going to be keen to get up to speed as fast as possible. And I think that may end up stepping on other people's toes to make that happen, but I'm all for it, to be honest, because I don't want to get too far ahead, but for me, he was probably our best player last night as well. Martinez obviously came in, Konza again right back, and I'm a massive fan personally, but it's
same. And I think, we'll get into the game, but looking at that back four, I kind of, with Carlos, Mings centre back, then you've got Maatsen playing left back, who's had very little game time with Luca Dean playing so well, and then Konza at right back, which not his strongest position. That defence kind of produced what I expected to, against Bruges, like very disjointed. The offside trap wasn't really functioning as it should, but there's a lot of players in there like Mings, Maatsen, Carlos, who've been, in and out, haven't played a lot of minutes. So it's obviously going to take them a little bit of time to get up to speed. And away from home in the Champions League is always tough. There's no easy games, is there, in Champions League? You go to these grounds and you're going to be under pressure for, at some point during the games. And yeah, I just think that back four kind of, when I sort of read the team sheet, I was kind of like, kind of expecting it to be a bit disjointed, to be honest with you. I'm just not sure why Nedeljkovic is not really getting games at right back. I'd love to see him get some time there. Konza going at right back for us is he can play there, he's serviceable, but it's not his best position. And he doesn't offer us anything in the attacking third, really, does he, or any width? And I think that kind of stunts us a little bit on the right-hand side, and we probably see a lot of traffic down the left-hand side. So, yeah, wouldn't mind seeing more minutes into Nedeljkovic, but yeah, time will tell if he does get more game time.
Like win, lose or draw last night, I've absolutely no doubt you wouldn't see that back four in a Premier League game. He's not going to do that. Like, I think it's the fact that we had 3 games, 3 clean sheets. I think he felt he could take a little bit of a risk with it because they've never played together as a four. Two of them can't be fully match fit. Matson hasn't played many 90 minutes. Diego Carlos, we know he comes in and out of forms and injuries and fitness, and he's the most upside down player I've ever come across. Brilliant in the big games and then terrible in the games he should be good. It's just he's an enigma, man. I still haven't figured him out. Like I haven't figured out if I love him or dislike him. And I never say I hate him because I don't hate any Villa players. But yeah, he's an enigma for me. I don't know. Like every time I think I want him out, he pulls up clean sheets against Man City and puts Haaland in his pocket, and it's really hard. I'd say I don't know, but I think he's probably at the point where he's probably too inconsistent to be the long term. I
Yeah.
just it's great, all well and good pulling out performances where you're against Man City and Bayern Munich and that where you're not seeing much of the ball, but we're trying to progress to become a team that does have the ball and wants to have the ball, and it doesn't seem to fit him well for those kind of games. Matson, I thought, deserved a bit of a run, not because Luka Dean has been bad, but he's been good since
Yeah.
he came on. So, just a word on Konza too. I think it's a bit unfair on Konza too because he's getting no help from Bailey either. And that's something
Mm.
that is kind of starting to kind of run its course a little bit. I'm like I've been a big advocate for Bailey, and just think that it's just he's miles off where he needs to be at the moment. And I think Tess called it a few episodes back, and I said, I think it's the right thing to play him into form, but he's been given that chance now, and it doesn't seem to be any better. And I think probably what Tess called right for his own good a couple of episodes ago, maybe it is time to start putting him as an impact, maybe get him a goal in late 10 minutes when people are tired.
Yeah, and I think that probably goes for a few of our players, though. I'm sort of noticing like that in that sort of wide position, both sides of the field. Really, when you look at, like we touched on it in previous episodes, you look at McGinn, Ramsey, Bailey. None of them are really in any sort of form at the moment, or really grabbing the positions. They Ramsey probably his best game against Bournemouth, I think he was. But other than that, we seem to have quite a few of those guys at the moment. A little bit, I don't want to, yeah, passenger is the word I'm sort of leaning towards. But you just can't carry too many people in these big games and in the Champions League. And I feel like at the moment, we've got too many people who are probably not in form, and it's really
Yeah, and
showing.
I think that we're expecting a bit too much for like more experienced players are expecting too much from Morgan Rogers. They're looking for him every time, expecting him to get us
Yeah.
up the pitch and stuff. And Morgan Rogers is a brilliant player, but his form has dipped a little bit. But I don't think that's his fault at all because he's been so good up to now. But like obviously teams are kind of setting up to stop him making as many runs. They can't stop him stopping the runs. But that's where your senior players, your John McGinns have to step up and start right. We can't look for Morgan. But even McGinn's looking for Rodgers every time. It's like, oh, how are we going to get up the pitch? Oh, give it to Morgan. Oh, he's got three lads around him. It doesn't matter. And he looks knackered by
Mm,
70 minutes every game. Like, no, because he's traveling
yeah.
a lot with the ball and he's well able. But and the worst thing for me is it still looks like the only avenue for a goal for us at the moment is getting him on the ball. And it's a bit
Yeah.
concerning. And but I just think senior players
Mm,
need to step up a little bit. Tillemans didn't have his best game for me, but at least he was still trying things. He was trying to unlock them, and it wasn't coming off. It definitely wasn't his best game, but he definitely wasn't the worst performer out of the pitch. And I wouldn't hammer him because he's been so good to know, and he was trying to add variety and
mm,
just wasn't coming off for him. But well, just want to talk about Onana there for a second. It must be kind of strange for him because he came in when Kamara was injured. He's been brilliant. He's lit it up against West Ham, scoring 3 minutes into his debut. He's a really good couple of
mm,
games. Then he had a couple of tactical substitutions where he was taken off at half time for Barkley, which absolutely no doubt were all right at the time. Now he's starting to find Kamara's coming back. Barkley's got injured. Kamara's coming back. And now it's starting to look like that he favours Onana ahead of Barkley, but he seems to favour Kamara over Onana. So it's a really weird place for Onana to be in
mm.
now. Of course, there's going to be lots of games. All four of them are going to get plenty of game time, but he's almost edging towards a fully fit Kamara and Yuri Tillemans as his kind of pivot, isn't it? Like it's kind of, you know, I don't know, but look,
It's
yeah,
looking that way. Yeah, yeah, it is. And I was just wondering whether Anana was carrying some injuries with, or if he wasn't 100% with him coming off early in some of those games as well. But you're right. He's leaned towards. I thought Kamara was really
he
good tonight
tried.
as
He
well. Like,
really
out of a
he
bad.
want he was trying everything. He was trying to get us up the pitch. He was trying to win the ball back. Not everything came off, but he was the only one that had that burning
Yeah.
desire to win the game. To be fair to him,
Yeah, out of a bad bunch, I think he was probably the pick for me. And like you say, I'm a little bit surprised at how well he has hit the ground running. But yeah, he was the pick for me in midfield. Tielemans, like you say, he works hard, tries to get us going. But for me, one of the things I think we are lacking, and I don't want to harp on about players who've left the club, but when Moussa Diaby left in the summer, obviously we know the reasons why he left financially, but that raw pace and that outlet, I think, is a big miss for us. I think he was the only one. There's not many players like him around, is there, with that electric pace? And I think with the front three or four we've got now rotating through, there's no real no pace to really break the lines. Ollie Watkins is quick, but he's not at that level. And I think that's becoming a little bit evident for me that we are trying to slow the ball down quite a bit. And like you said, play through Morgan Rogers and build slowly. But I think that can be a little bit predictable. And when we did have Diaby, you always had that runner. You could put a ball through, a ball over the top, and he's pretty much going to get to most things with his speed. So it's going to be interesting how we adapt now and how we sort of settle in and hopefully get some more players into form. And like you say, probably not rely on Rodgers as much.
I think, yeah, you're 100% right about the Diaby thing because, like, look, he still contributed 19 goals, but there was massive patchy form. Sometimes he was very good, sometimes he was very poor. There's no
Mm,
getting away from that. Like, but he always had his space. So in games that we were kind of laboured and kind of rudderless, like I would call it, like we were tonight, yeah, as you said, you could just go
yeah,
along to him, and even if it wasn't going effective, it was taking pressure off us and giving him something to chase. And to be fair, in Emery's defence, he probably wasn't expecting Bailey to hit a wall like he did as he's old Diaby either. So it's kind of, you know what I mean.
yeah,
He probably thought, Leon is coming into form a lot, like, and he's carrying it. But and obviously Philogene Bidace must be kind of tearing his hair out, like watching Bailey kind of. And
mm,
I think we're going to have to see him very soon. Like they can't keep playing Bailey. Like we'll get to.
no,
I'm sure we'll get on to the Liverpool game after, so I'll talk about that then. But yeah, I think Philogene Bidace needs a kind of a run soon. What I was going to say to you there is just a little bit about the game right now.
mm,
We didn't even start well. Like there's no point to that period of that first half that I thought, why we're on it today. Like we were just not. We didn't look
mm.
interested, man. It was just like let's pass them to death. Let's go. Yeah, it's just like yeah.
Strange, wasn't it? It was really flat. We had a couple of chances in that first half, like the McGinn header,
Yeah.
and then
Awful header
Watkins
by McGinn, by
had
the
a
way.
chance as
The
well.
awful header. We
Oh,
closed the eyes.
terrible.
Ball
Brilliant play
Mara.
by
Yeah.
Kamara, though.
Um,
Unreal. Picks the ball up, I think, and drives and a brilliant cross. But those two chances there, McGinn should be scoring
yeah.
that one. You know what I mean? It's a really good chance. And the Watkins chance is very good as
What was the
well.
Watkins one
So we didn't
again?
start well, and we
What was the
looked.
Watkins chance again?
The Watkins one, I think that was just before the McGinn header. So he gets played through and he hits it just wide. I think it's on
Oh
his
yes, yes, yeah,
left
yeah,
foot,
yeah. I
maybe.
remember it now. Yeah,
That's like it's within the space of 2 or 3 minutes with the
yeah.
McGinn chance. So we have like two really good chances. It's a difficult finish, the Watkins one. The McGinn one's probably the better chance. But again, you need to be working the keeper. But we didn't, like you said, we were really flat and laboured. But when we had those two chances, I thought, oh, here we go. It's starting to perk up a little bit. And if we could just take one of those chances early, that's 20 odd minutes gone, changes the game a bit. But it's kind of where we're at the moment, isn't it? With chances and opportunities. We're just not quite nailing it.
It's Ollie Watkins out and out, though, isn't it? Like when he's fitting and firing, like he scores that chance, lad.
Mm,
Like and then like they're the chances he misses when he's kind of patchy in and out of it. Like and yeah, must be like Watkins. Like when he was on the rings, like I'm not gonna start hammering Watkins because he's brilliant. Like I've a great time from his player, and we're not gonna get any better than him. But
mm,
um, he went through these patchy forms when Ings was breathing down his neck at all. Like, and this is the same with Duran now. And I suppose if you want to play at big clubs, you need to be able to handle this pressure. But maybe he doesn't handle this pressure very well because remember last year he was really patchy, and then we sold Danny Ings in. Then he scored 12 games in the trot. It's like he
mm.
needs that hug. You are my man. Like, and maybe he does struggle a little bit that pressure when a striker's breathing down his neck.
It's a good take. I didn't even think of that, to be honest with you. You're right. Like, if he's the number one man and there was no one really challenging him last year. Like you say, his form was really good, but there's obviously been a lot of noise around Duran and Duran starting with Watkins, and his early season form's been really good. John Duran scoring goals, you're right, and then Ollie Watkins sort of been a bit patchy after it. But in his defence, I think the
shocking.
service, especially in the last few weeks, I just don't think we're really connected in that final third, are we? It just is so disjointed, and he's living off scraps, really, and that's not helping him. That final third's got to improve, but I don't know. And this is a question for Unai Emery, mate. He's the man in charge, but it's like, how do we change that front 3 or 4 players, whoever's playing up there, and get that to work? Because like you say, Bailey's out of form. Philogene hasn't really had much of a chance, but when he has looked a bit shy from it. McGinn's not in form, Ramsey. So it's really interesting how we sort of adapt and change and work our way out of this, because it's probably, would you say it's the first sticky patch for us under Emery?
Probably where we've looked really poor. I mean, we've had bouts of form before where we drop, but not where we look like we can't score. We always look like we have a goal in us, and like I think we could be still playing now and we wouldn't have scored against Bruges. That's just how I felt. I know at that time, remember when you went back for the Arsenal game and we'd lost to City, Arsenal and Leicester in all 3 games in a row. That was probably the last bad time we've lost 3 games in a row, but also that time we were still scoring goals and we were in those games at different periods. Like Arsenal, the game you were at, Arsenal was really late that they beat us, and Leicester was really 4 bad mistakes, but we still put 2 away, and we gave Man City a game for the first 40 minutes. We gave away a silly penalty, I think it was. And, this is a little bit different, but and usually you'd say, look, the players under pressure, we don't have numbers, but we nearly have the full squad, maybe apart from Mandy Cash and Ross Barkley. So yeah, it's hard to check. But with that first half, there's something that really annoyed me, and it's just, it really, really bothered me. Now, Mings gets a yellow card. I actually thought it was a harsh yellow card. He went up to head the ball, elbowed your man. Your man played to it, and it was kind of, the referee just kind of gave it, and it kind of set the tone. Then the referee was kind of starting to pull, like it made the game very patchy. The referee was pulling everything, but I thought it was a harsh yellow. It was definitely a free, but I thought it was really harsh yellow. But then Diego Carlos, man, just wouldn't let it go, and then just kept. And then next minute, suddenly, all of a sudden, your 2 centre halves are on. We used to complain, remember, when our 2 midfielders, when Onan and Tillemans would get 2. It's even worse when you're away from home and your 2 centre halves within a minute for something so stupid like. See, Emery was going ballistic to him, rightly so. I'd say if he had the choice, he would have pulled the 2 of them off there right there and then, because he was angry with him, man. Really silly. And the ref even gave Carlos a chance. He left him walk away.
Yeah,
and Carlos turned around, came back again at him, and then he just gave him. The yellow didn't come actually for a while, but very. What did you think of that? I was watching. I was like, will this man ever shut up? Like
it's so petulant, isn't it? And it's like you're away from home under pressure in the Champions League, and he'd given away a free kick earlier in the half, Carlos, where he's wrestling their striker. So, he's obviously giving the referee a little bit, and like you said, he took 2 stabs at it. Like the referee sort of warned him, waved him away, and he came back again. And you're right, it's just, you can't afford to have your 2 centre backs on yellows like that. I thought Mings was unlucky, same as you, but Diego Carlos, he's a yellow card.
He has it in his locker, doesn't he?
That's kind of the way that's kind of the way he plays. He plays right on the edge, but it's not going to fly, is it, under Emery? You can see that. And we are a team at the moment that is racking up a lot of cards, and eventually, you're going to lose players for a game, and it's, that becomes a worry then, doesn't it, if you start racking up too many? But yeah, pretty petulant really from Diego Carlos, and I thought he was playing into some form, but like you said, total enigma, mate. I can't work him out either. So,
like you're looking you're looking for a bit of football as a manager from memory. There, you're looking for your experienced players to show a bit of football IQ. You got to know we're away from home in the Champions League. At some point, I may have to make a cynical foul and take a yellow. You're a centre half. You see your centre half partner getting a yellow. You stay away. Don't get involved, because you now know he can't be the one to do it. It's on you. Don't get a yellow for mouthing. I'm sure Emery give you a pat in the back of it's the 87 minutes 0-0, and you hack a lad down and you take a yellow and you move on. he's going to hop off him for taking that yellow, because it just meant that none of our centre halves could now make a tackle. It's just, yeah, or to take a dodgy yellow later on, or it was very silly, man. I was actually, to be honest, I was surprised to see them both come out at half time, because I thought Emery would have had to brought Torres on because a bit sooner than what he did, because I thought you're going to have a centre half that can take a yellow on, like, which has happened to Onana quite a few times when him and Tillemans have got yellows and they pull Onana off. So you have to have someone that can take a yellow. Yeah, I just thought it was very silly. So we got to half time, so we may as well talk. We may as well have a quick talk about it. I don't want to linger too much on it. So we come out anyway, and as only Aston Villa know how, we absolutely gift wrapped them a goal. Look, Lorino, I don't want to batter anyone. I don't want to, because look, I think we both know, and there's going to be enough of that from either side of the social media campaigns tonight of why what it wasn't. But I will ask you, what's your opinion on it, without being too harsh or too nice in either way? What was your thoughts on it?
Correct decision, first of all. I think, the ball is back in play for me. I don't know. I've watched it back a few times, and I don't really understand. Looks like Mings thinks it's been called as a goal kick because he picks it up and puts it in the corner of the 6-yard box. So for me, it's the right call. I know everyone harps on about Arsenal didn't get given one against last season, but that's irrelevant, isn't it? And if the ball's deemed back in play and you pick it up as handball, and there was only one, and I think Paddy mentioned it on For the Love of Paul McGrath, and I saw it on the socials. It was in the German leagues a couple of weeks ago. Same thing happened, and it's just beggars belief. Like, you just can't quite believe it. And yeah, like you say, you're not going to hammer anyone for it, but it's so unfortunate for Tyrone Mings. It's, he's been out for such a long time, finally gets to play a Champions League game, and this is what's going to be the headline, really,
I do
isn't
feel
it?
really bad for him. This is what he's always going to remember from now on his Champions League debut,
and you wonder about the communication, verbally, Martinez has kicked it to him. Should he be calling something? But it probably happened so quick. Martinez is probably bewildered himself looking at it. Probably just,
it's hard for me. It's hard for me to blame Martinez now for that, because we are a team that play out from the back, and we get the ball moving quickly when we can,
Spot on, and that's something that we do now, isn't it? Balls on the floor, pass it out. So
you can't put it down to long-term out or anything like that. It was just a brain fart. We've all had them at work, where you kind of look back and think, what was I doing? It's just your brain just switches off for a second, and I feel sorry for him, because when you're coming back from an injury like that, you're going to have a mistake at some point. You're going to do something where your fitness lets you down, or you misplace a pass, or don't let it be that. I feel so bad from that's he must be gutted, because it's that's what he's going to be remember his Champions League debut for now. When I think there was a lot he done right as well in the first half. But it was just absolute Aston Villa, and your man took his penalty well. I thought he looked confident. I knew he was going to score, because not everyone looks confident going up against Martinez, but this lad wasn't phased at all. He knew what he was going to do. He was going to put the ball in the back of the net. I just want to talk about Bruges in that first half. I thought they were really good. I know we allowed them to be good, but they had a game plan. They stuck to it. The two centre halves were very good. The two lads up front did not stop running. Your man, Jotlaga or whatever his name was, the Express London lad, he was causing us all kinds of trouble, and he targeted that space between Cons and Carlos, didn't he? He just kept making runs in there, even if he wasn't getting the ball. He was just constantly giving them a decision to make. Yeah, well, what was your thoughts on Bruges? Were we surprised with him?
I was impressed. No, and I was impressed, and like you say, we probably allowed them to play well. But in fairness to them, they took their chances. And for me, like you say, the first half we were patchy, but then they sort of grew into the game, and then we just weren't really making anything. But as soon as they scored the penalty, their confidence just went through the roof then, didn't they? And they were just busting us open left, right and centre. Like I said, the offside trap wasn't functioning. I thought their front two were causing us all sorts of issues. I think Konza looked really
agitated. He looked agitated.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he just
frustrated.
looked.
What was happening
Yeah, and
around him, wasn't he?
yeah, and he just didn't look like himself. And then they were breaking through. The offside trap just wasn't functioning. But yeah, as soon as they got that goal, they just took on a level of confidence. Ended, and they took control of the game. We sort of we were just looked a bit. I don't know, just devoid of ideas,
Mhm.
aren't we, at the moment? And there doesn't really seem to be any outlet apart from Morgan Rogers, and I think that was really apparent in the second half. And I think we obviously threw some subs on, which didn't really make any difference for me. But yeah, the goal sort of swung the game. I would have taken a 0-0 away, but then you give away a goal
Yeah.
like that, and yeah, we just didn't look like you said. We could still be playing now, and we wouldn't be
And that's
scoring.
unusual for
So
this team, isn't it?
just
Like,
rough,
like even in the games
very.
we've had real bad performances, I always felt we could nick a goal, even if we were 2-0 down. We always had a goal to get back to 2-1. I didn't feel that. Once that penalty
Mm,
went in, the manner of it, the way we were playing, I kind of knew. Like, I just had, that's it. And to
mm,
be honest, if anything, it looked like they were going to score again, not us. Like, it was more likely going to. Like
yeah,
I've credit to them, like, because it would have been easy for them to kind of shut up shop against an English team in front of their home fans, take the points and move on because they need the points. They didn't though. They went for the second. Like they smelled blood. Like
yeah.
they were the ones creating chances. I thought that was the second goal coming, to be honest. And the amount of chances we created in that second half was kind of embarrassing. Like we were
Mm,
lacking creativity, and I think it was just the last roll of the dice he threw Emmy Buendia and just go on and do something different. Go on and just offer us something.
yeah.
I actually thought it was a good sub when he came on because I thought, yeah, that's someone who might come in and just do something that the others can't. But it's just kind of
Mm,
one of them, isn't it? I mean, just I don't want to get too depleted by it because we're still in a really good position, but it just shows how tight this new format can be because we started the match fixtures in first place, dropped straight to 8 after one loss, even though teams around us lost as well. So it's tight in it.
yeah.
But I was just gonna look. We're not going to dwell on it too much more right now because I mean it's obviously it's been covered. It's going to be covered elsewhere and stuff, and I think we've covered as much as we had to it. So I don't really have too much more to say about myself. Really, I'm kind of happy enough to look on to the next game, and just kind of draw a line under it because it's been a poor week really with
Yeah.
Um, Spurs and Brugge last night. Did you have any of the final words you wanted to say in that game before we moved on?
Nah, not really, mate. I think, it's no, the only thing I will say is, let's not panic just yet. Like, and just, it's been a brilliant start for us in the Champions League. And, you know, yeah, one loss, but again, silly goal. We could have been getting a point out of that one. So, yeah, just look forward to the next. We've got some massive games coming up in the
Yeah.
Champions League. Just stay positive now and then just enjoy them, isn't it? That's the main
And
thing.
the points tally as well is probably still better than what I would have predicted it from the start, from the first four games. So I'm not too downbeat. For me, it's not really the result; it was the performance. To be honest, I can take a 1-0
Mm,
loss, like if it's kind of we've had a good game plan, or whatever, like or we looked okay, we had ideas. It was the manner of the defeat for me. I just thought we weren't great at all in all aspects. But hey, it's a long season. We're not going to play brilliant every week, so it's just the patch we're having and.
mm.
Hopefully, we can head to Merseyside Saturday night. It's not the ideal place to be going at the moment when you're lacking a bit of form. You're conceding goals and not scoring many. Considering Liverpool are not conceding many goals, scoring lots of goals, and really, really look like a good team. And before we get into about Villa first, I want to actually talk to you a little bit about Liverpool because I don't know about you, but I've been massively impressed with them, what they've done. They almost
Yeah.
look a little bit of a different side. They're playing different formations. The base of what Klopp was playing was there, but they look far more compact. Um, have you got the
Mm.
chance to see much of them this season?
Yeah, I've watched a fair bit actually, and same as what you're saying. I think both ends of the field. I think they've just kicked it up a notch now. And defensively, for me, they look a lot more
Completely different
solid,
team, isn't it? Even though it's the
and then
same
going
players.
for yeah, and that's probably the more surprising thing for me because we know how much attacking talent they've
Mm.
got. They've got plenty of attacking talent up there, and so I'm not surprised they're scoring goals, but I am surprised at how tight he's got them playing at the back and. I just think they look really well drilled, and I was expecting, to be honest with you, I thought when Klopp left and Arne Slot came in, I thought there was going to be a little bit of a transition and a dip, but he's kicked them on, and that's probably the most surprising thing for me. It looks like they've improved, and yeah, it's like you say, it's probably the one place we don't want to be going this weekend. To be honest with you, out of every team in the league at the moment, yeah, I don't really want to be going to Anfield, but there we go. It's what we've
Yeah,
got.
that place will be hopping too. 8 o'clock on a Saturday night at home. The place will be bouncing as well. It's yeah, but with Liverpool, I've been really impressed the way he's come in. He's made him more compact. I've watched him quite a bit actually. If Villa aren't on, it's the Liverpool games I've been showing on because I have been interested to see how they're going to. Because I know what I'm going to see with City. I know they're getting beat a little bit. You know what you're going to see from Arsenal over the next couple of years. So I've been really intrigued to see how Slot has come in and do what he's done because he hasn't really made much signings either. It's pretty much the same squad. I think.
No.
Federico Chiesa is probably the only one who's come in, and he's really injured all the time, so he hasn't really played
Yep.
at all either. So it's basically Klopp's team, which I'm sure Slot will be very thankful for Klopp leaving him with such a blessed squad because when you look at the names in that defence and that attack, they're just strong everywhere. Midfield, he almost built them,
Yeah.
rebuilt them, and then left. I've been impressed because what he's kind of done is he's kind of said, right, we have goal scorers all over the team. We're conceding too many goals. Whereas Klopp had the mentality: if you score two, I'll score three. Slot doesn't seem to think like that. Slot seems to think, well, if we don't concede, I have goal scorers all over this team. We'll win the game, no problem. It's hard to say it's Jose Mourinho style, but it's almost like that Jose set up there
Mm.
they had when they had Robin, Duff, and Drogba, where they had just so many. It's different to the Salah Firmino area. It's you're going back again. I
Yeah.
think the Chelsea team with Duff, Robin, and Drogba is probably the most I can like it too because they're so defensive tightly. They give away nothing, but then they just hit you with their midfielders and attack, and they look like they're going to score every game, and they look like you're going to work very, very hard to get goals off them. So that's probably the biggest compliment I can give them. They're probably the best balance between defense and attack that I've seen for a long, long time, to be honest.
And one of the games that I watched, I was really impressed with Curtis Jones and Ryan
Yeah,
Gravenberch. I think both of those players are sort of grown, haven't
yeah.
they? And I was just so impressed of how much control both those players had, and they can go both ways on the field as well. They can obviously mix it up, tackling and get forward a bit as well. And I think that's been probably one of the big things that Liverpool have probably lacked a little bit in that centre midfield where they've had players leave or retire. But now they're starting to see this new crop come through, and they're only young guys, Curtis Jones and Gravenberch and Szoboszlai. But for me, I was watching them. I can't remember which game it was. It might have been Bournemouth, but Curtis Jones was phenomenal, and there's a lot of talent in
The
that
game
team.
against Chelsea, I think he was really good in that game. He was excellent against
Yeah.
Chelsea. No, like we're kind of talking about Liverpool's strengths, like, and there is strengths everywhere. And that kind of brings me on
Mm.
to ask you. So we've both watched quite a bit of Liverpool. Where do you think that we can hurt them? Like, what would be the lineup you go? Is there anything that you have kind of picked where you think, oh, this is the only way we're going to get about them and stuff? Like, what's the best way to set up against them in Anfield? Do you reckon for us with the players available to us and given the form we're in as well? Like it's very different when you're in good form. You can
Yeah.
just go
I,
again, confidence is up. But
mm,
with our team, kind of, I would say a bit low in confidence at the moment, not playing particularly well.
I'm gonna. I think you're spot on there. It's about more so our form is probably changing my mind on what team
Yeah,
we'd put
same
out.
exactly.
Like if
Yeah,
we were playing really well, I'd be having a
yeah.
crack at them. But for me, it's kind of like after the Spurs, the Spurs results a massive knock to the confidence. It's kind of go back to basics now and batten down the hatches for me. So start people in their best positions. I'm not sure what the prognosis is on Cash. Is he going to be
No, he
available
didn't
or
really give away
not?
anything much in that. He was asked like who's missing in the Champions League, and he said
Mm.
Barkley and Cash, but he didn't say that they're going to be back. And I hope he is.
So for me, if it's getting back to basics, I'd be starting my centre back pairing would be Konza and Pau Torres, Luca Dean, and then Cash if fit at right back. And then for me, I'd be going Anana, Tielemans, Bailey. For me, can't start. This is not a game where we can afford to start him. So I'm going with more of a compact sort of workhorse team, I think you'd call it. Obviously, Morgan Rogers and Watkins for me, but then I'd be going with McGinn and Ramsey. Um, do you try and fit in Kamara as well and try and really flood that midfield? But then I don't know if that plays into Liverpool's hands then. So that's probably where I'd go for. I'd probably put Onana back in with Tielemans. And then obviously I'd be bringing Kamara on then to replace whoever's taken the yellow
Yeah.
early. And then McGinn and Ramsey. And yeah, for me. Yeah, and it's just about batting down the hatches now, because I think that loss to Spurs and then going to Liverpool, who are really destructive going forward, it's got me worried, to be honest with you, the way we're leaking goals. So it's about, just getting back to basics now and trying to tighten up.
Yeah, I think I'd like, not to sound negative here, but I'd happily take a 0-0 here, the 1-1, just with it, because what we don't want is, because we're low on confidence at the moment, is to walk away after a 3-4 battering. And I'm not trying to be hyperbolic here and say like, oh, after that, because look, I know Emery will get us out of this bit of form. I just think this is as tough as we could have chosen for the moment that we're in, to be honest, given the form there and where you're going at the moment. But it could be the best thing that happens to us too, because you go there, you get a good result. That changes everything, But are we capable of winning 1-0? Absolutely. Like, Emery can set up a team that's not going to concede goals. And to be honest, our best performances have come when the onus has been on the other team. So if this was at home, I'd probably be a little bit more confident, because I think, we can lock it down. And we look, apart from today, we still always have a goal against us. Like, we're poor against Spurs for a lot of it, but we still had a goal in us. United, the less said about that game, the better. I thought that was probably our worst league performance of the season. But I think this is going to be a very difficult game. It's going to be a big question for him is who to put in the middle, because the midfield battle against Liverpool it's vital, because you lose that, you can lose, and then you have to worry about, well, how can you play against high line against Salah, anyone, Nunes, Diaz is in the form of his life. That's the one, you can take Diaz out, you can take Nunes out, you can Jota in. Like, they've just Gakpo. Like, you don't even know who's going to start for them. So there's a lot to worry about, and I think our high line is a bit of a concern against that attack for me, to be honest. So yeah, I don't know.
How do you set up, mate? Who do you think? How do you think he sort of sets up for it? Do you see any big changes, or in the
Well, the worry for me is that what I would do and what Emery's going to do is probably different. I think it's going to be Konza right back, and I think he'll probably play Carlos and Pau Torres again at centre back, and Luka Dean left back. That's what he's done previously in the big games. I can't see Mings coming in for this one, if I'm honest. But I do think it's not what I would do if Matty Cash is fit. I'd play him, but. That's what I expect to see, to be honest. Daniel left back, Carlos and Pau Torres, and then Kanza right back. That's what I see. I think he's going to sit deeper. I think he'll feel he'll have to against the high line, but or against Liverpool's attack. Midfield. I'd love them just to go for it and put Onana, Tielemans, and Kamara in there together. It's a double pivot, but I don't see it. I think you're right. I think we probably will get the physicality of Onan in there, because Liverpool are good in midfield, but they're not big. There are no big men in there. McAllister's not that big. Curtis Jones is sorry, but he's not a monster. I think you could get Onana in there, and he could probably do a bit of damage in there and a bit of physicality. So I probably would start Kamara or Onana ahead of Kamara, but it's very hard for me to drop Kamara though, because I think he's. If this was game was a couple of weeks down the line, I'd probably change my mind, but I still think he's still lacking that match fitness, as much as Emery's showing that he's trying to get it back into him as quickly as possible. But you probably just for familiarity, you probably would go on and Tielemans to start this. It's very hard after that, because I don't really think too many of them deserve to be starting after that. Rodgers probably deserves to keep his place. Like, it would be unfair to drop him after his performance the last two games, because, as I said, I think that's more coming down to him being marked out of the game as opposed to massive dip in his form. It's the people around him expecting too much of him. So I would definitely start him, but I'd start him in that 10. I wouldn't be putting him out on the left again. He didn't see enough ball out there. He looked a lot better when he came into the middle. For work rate, you'd probably have to put McGinn in there. So you'd probably, I'd be the same as you. I'd probably be JJ and McGinn, to be honest, and then Watkins up top. Not that too many of them aren't the right to play, but I think this is a game where you just got to put players in the best position and who you're going to get the best out of them because we're not going to see as much as the ball as we'd like to. So yeah, I think that's
No passengers is there. You can't afford luxury. I think Leon Bailey, well, he hasn't been a luxury player lately, but that's kind of what we've classed him as, isn't it? And I just don't think we can afford to carry that at the minute. And even though JJ and McGinn are probably not in the form that we want, I think you probably get a bit more protection from
I
those
wouldn't
two, especially McGinn.
so I wouldn't be afraid to put Philogene in ahead of JJ either for this game because the last game
Mm,
like Philogene was brilliant against Bayern when we were under pressure like because he's a hard worker. So I mean I wouldn't be
yeah,
completely against that either because we're going to need, as you said, that's where we're going to need lads putting in the shift. Um, I think Bailey needs a breather and it could be a good game to bring him on later, but yeah, I think he
yeah.
needs to sit this one out for me. And who would you start between Ramsey and Philogene if you had the choice?
Probably Ramsey at the moment, and then yeah, probably a natural swap there though, isn't it? Probably be bringing Philogene on then later, and the only reason for that is probably the only thing that's edging it for me is probably Ramsey's got a little bit more experience at this
Yeah,
level, and I think yeah, that probably just edges it for me. I don't think I for me, I don't think Ramsey's been great for a while. I think he had his best game a couple of games ago, and I was, singing his praises. But he's another one for me that since his injury last season, I don't think he's really got back to where he was. And I think the team dynamic has changed around him since that injury with Morgan Rogers coming in. I think he probably sees less of the ball, and yeah, and maybe his role's been changed. I don't know what the directions are,
yeah,
what's been asked of him, but it don't know. He seems to have lost his way a little bit for me, Jacob Ramsey, and it's a little bit of a worry because he's getting to that age now, isn't he, where you kind of kick on and make it your own, or you end up dropping down the pecking order and end up leaving the club. So I'm really interested to keep an eye on him, how his form goes now for the rest of the season. Brilliant player, love him. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not not jumping around, but I just feel like there's definitely been big drop in that form. And, what we knew of Jacob Ramsey, the ball carrying, destructive running, breaking into the box, getting shots off, just not seeing that at the moment. So, yeah, interested to see how that pans
no,
out.
I agree. Yeah, Emery loves him though. You can tell because anytime he's fit, he's back in.
Mm.
So I think, yeah, I think he might start. Yeah, I think he might start. Um, The only other thing I would say about Kamara is probably the best footballer we have of looking after the ball. And Emery may look at it and we're not going to see much of the ball, so we need to keep it when we do have it. So for that reason, you might see Kamara come in. Look, I'm not going to ask you for a scoreline because I think it's unfair because it's a tough game. I know like
Mm.
we'll only get hammered for what we if we give it out, but just because of a low performance this morning. But I will ask you. I won't ask you for a scoreline, but I will ask you kind of what way you're going to see it. Do you see us getting anything out of it?
No, actually don't. To be honest with you, with the form we're in at the moment and the way we're playing, I think the way Liverpool are playing, I think they've just going to have too much firepower. I think for us, I think it's going to be probably a tough day for us at Anfield. Like you said, it's probably the worst ground to go to at the moment. If we were in some form, if we were in some form, then I'd probably back us a bit more to get something there. But yeah, it's just because the last few weeks the form's dropped off. So yeah, probably not expecting anything from the game, to be honest. I know that sounds a bit negative, but yeah, it's just the way they're playing and the way we are. It's just total opposites at the
Yeah, I think
moment.
it's going to be very, very difficult to get something here. I hope we can sneak a draw, but I just hope that we can win and
Mm,
offer a bit of a competitive performance in it, and yeah, not do too bad because we know I think a bad performance now could really upset the confidence here, and I think with the international break coming up, it could be good to just go into that without taking a bit of a hiding. So they might surprise us. It wouldn't be the first time they surprised us in the past, mate, and they might pull it out the bag, hey. Um, Right
yeah.
now, we're going to wrap it up. We've hit the 40 minutes, 45 minutes. Good to get a chat in. Any last thing you want to say before we wrap it up?
Yeah, just looking forward to the next few games. Obviously, Juventus coming up is a highlight at home, isn't it, in the Champions League? And and looking forward to just watching, like you say, some of the, one of the biggest teams, in club football coming to Villa Park and seeing what we can do against those guys. Obviously, Douglas Luiz returning to Villa Park, and looking forward to the next few weeks. Some big fixtures coming up, tough games, but you just got to try and stick positive now, and just work through this sticky patch. And, we've got the best manager for the job in there who can adapt, change, and set up against different teams. So, still exciting times for me.
Guys, thanks very much for your time. We will be back. With two of the three of us will be back over the weekend, if not the three of us. Guys, keep hitting that like, subscribe for us. The podcast is growing lovely. We really do appreciate it. Give it a share on the socials, as we always say. We can be found on our Instagram at Villa Pride Down Under, on X at Pride Down Under, and on YouTube, the Villa Pride Down Under podcast. So we're going to wrap it up, and hopefully we'll be back with a more positive podcast come the weekend. Up the Villa.
Up the Villa.